these guys over the course of the week, and they've been absolutely brilliant. I haven't seen Tim, who's our first guy that we have up. Really looking forward to seeing him. But the first person we have up is Tim Mason. Then we have Andrea Sestak and the ever-revolving band name. They will tell you what they're currently called. Tanya Davis and C.R. Avery. So it's going to be absolutely fantastic. But the first guy that we have, you probably know. I think he's a bit infamous on the folk circuit, from what I can gather. So he's been around since the 1980s, doing folk music and poetry, and he's got his fingers in an awful lot of pies. He's also considerably taller than me, I think. So I'm going for about there. Can you please put your hands together for Tim Mason?
You can use the center one if you want.
All right. Well, thank you. It is great to be showcasing at a Folk Alliance in a spoken word event. This, I don't think, has happened since last century, back when the Poetry Slam movement was a young thing. The Folk Alliance hosted a few of these. And I'm going to start off with a poem I discovered when we did this in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and a fellow named Coy King came in and just laid down a poem that was just stunning. I asked him if I could perform it, and he said, sure, go ahead. So I'm going to start off with a cover poem. This was called Hooked. It is the worst ever, side-armed and knuckleballed through the pearly gates beneath the softest of feathers. It has infiltrated the cracks and seams of the streets of gold. It has passed from soul to soul in angelic eyelocks and the subtle brushing of robes in heaven's markets, cafes, and libraries. The angels are absolutely hooked. It is wet. It is salty. It is clear. It is tears. The angels are hooked on tears. They are crying for eternity, uninhibitedly sad. The angels have been around forever, and they have never felt like this. They grew bored. They grew soft. They grew listless. And now, pain is selling like crack as they drink its newness in dizzying gulps. They are strung out and fighting each other to satisfy their fix. They are creating more. It is, of course, a contraband trade, this selling of tears behind the Heavenly Father's back. But it seems to go like this. There was once a woman, a new mother, who lay dying with her child in her arms. She pleaded with God to let her stay with her baby, but he responded by letting her die. Enraged, destroyed, she was flown to heaven weeping and soon lost her sense of pain. Her cuffs, though, were wet with tears, and once inside, their scent hung ominously in the air of the Holy Kingdom. Somehow, she remembered and wept in the arms of Gabriel, and the tears were passed on, a disease never so infectious and virulent. And heaven hasn't been the same ever since. There are bars in heaven now. There are weapons in heaven now. There are feelings in heaven now. There are cops in heaven now. There is soot and sludge and trash in heaven now. And now, for the first time, they got punk rock in heaven now. They got hip hop in heaven now. They've got jazz in heaven now. But most importantly, they've got the blues in heaven now. You have got to have a job to live in heaven now. Washing dishes, waiting tables, all to pay the rent in heaven now. You got to eat in heaven now. At night, the angels roll smokes. They dangle their feet from clouds. They are precious, young, and sexy. They got tattoos, heartbreaks, and college credit. And they got eternity. And they are hooked. So that was written by Coy King. And it was just to demonstrate in poetry, too, there is the folk process. We can share, cover, and otherwise connive. But I find it useful to draw a lot of my inspiration for poetry from real experiences. It's generally that's stranger than the stuff I can make up. And one set of experiences that I had that was particularly rich was when I had the opportunity to travel down to Texas. And those have been always amazing journeys. I've seen many wonders and learned many things, including the wisdom of not messing with the Texans' hat. Although that's another story and should be related in the context of my showing Texas and messing with my hat's not too bright an idea as well. Though either option could liven up a party, especially if you don't mind a bit of structural damage now and again. But you know, first thing I saw gave me the opinion these yeehaws was civilized after all, was these signs they have beside their road. Said, drive friendly. What a concept. I, coming from Massachusetts, where we have the good taste not to mention such things, was quite unprepared for this. In fact, I thought it might be a trap. Remained ready to resort to any means necessary to get to my exit when I wanted it. The 3-lane switch, pass them on the right in the breakdown lane, kid stuff to any veteran of Northeast traffic. No, I was ready with my intimidate the cabbie in-your-face merge technique. The one most commonly employed upon leaving the 6-lane toll plaza for the 2-lane tunnel at 20 paces. The former single-line merge left situation you find on the expressway at rush hour. Now, I was ready for them all right, and was actually a bit disappointed when these macho specimens of Southern pride, who cussed Yankees and refused to forget the Alamo, actually applied their brakes and stayed to the right. One of these fellows told me he had taken a trip of his own, come up to my neck of the woods. Said after that experience he had voted for Michael Dukakis. Figured anything to get another Massachusetts driver off the road. I had to admit that was the best reason I had heard. And then he asked me about these creations he swore were spawned in the very bowels of hell to confuse the devil his own self. The Rotary. Especially he wanted to know how we could be so calm referring to them. Had they put us in a coma, or were we always that treacherous when giving strangers directions? Seems like every time he'd asked, he'd been told, you just go down the road, buy the Dunkin' Donuts, pass through the Rotary, and continue on. Said we made it sound so easy. I told him, passing through, that's an old Puritan expression for dying. He allowed where that put things in a proper light. It was a rare moment of cultural understanding, and one that I was proud to have taken part in. For I had learned that millions of Americans believe that NASCAR is a sport. Well, I believe driving in Boston makes me an athlete. I hurt my middle finger the other day. I couldn't drive for a week. I had lost so much of my edge I had to see my pharmacist to get it back. He referred me to a place on the coast, Balco. Said they only work with professionals there. Said they'd beef up my middle finger to the size of Barry Bonds' biceps. It'd be enough to shock a semi into both observing the speed limit and respecting the lane. Figured with the tunnels of the Big Dig leaking faster than Bechtel could launder the cash. The trip under the aquarium, about to become the trip through the aquarium, I could probably use the extra edge. And I think he was right. But being a child of the 70s, I prefer my drugs to have hallucinogenic properties and all changes to my physique to disappear after a good sleep. So I filed the number and emerged from the pits with only my innate skills to protect me as I looked to the west and faced the pike. So on one other journey I took, I went home and spent some time with my father and decided to shake out the branches of the family tree a little bit. So I asked my dad about his grandpa. And it turned out he'd never met his grandfather because when his older brother was born, my great-grandpa thought that it would behoove him to hop on the first freight train out of Tucumcari, New Mexico, headed back to St. Joseph, Missouri to see his only grandson. Which is exactly what he set out to do. He leaped up for a train, grabbed hold for a moment, lost his grip, ended up on the tracks, and that was it for my great-grandpa. So my great-grandfather was a hobo, apparently not a very good one. And his son took after his dad, so my grandpa, when he was a teenager, he would ride the rails with this pint of whiskey tucked in his pocket and leave grandma to fend for herself. And she did, too. My aunt was fathered by grandpa's brother. And on mom's side of the family, religious conviction goes way back. In the late 1600s, great-grandpa to the nth degree, he was run out of Europe for his preaching. His grandson was a conscientious objector in the Revolutionary War, and today my cousins, they keep the faith by living simply, riding in buggies and staying out the way of progress. So all I inherited from my family was this bad set of Scottish genes and a streak of Amish conviction to do battle with it. But that's not exactly true, because there is this streak of solitude. And those moments of silence, the sermons and the slamming beers, they all make sense. In China, I would revere this as the ancestors speaking through me. The ancestors, the honorable and the assholes, debating, each imparting the wisdom they had found, desperate for me to express it, and in so doing to honor them. But this ain't China, and listening to dead people speak to your blood will get you certified crazy like the way if you talk about it. So fourth or fifth generation, my brothers and I, we cling to our Euro, Afro-Asian roots as if it was us that stepped from the boat. We fly the flag of ethnic pride, forgetting that now we are North American, and not hearing what the ancestors in our blood have to say. It is symbolically we embrace the heritage we are creating, writing our history in sound bites and in headlines, and hoping, praying to be heard in our children's blood. So that poem got a little extra resonance for me a few years ago, because I've been doing that one for a while, and I had the chance to bring my daughter along to features and festivals and the like, and she kind of grew up listening to that poem, and apparently she soaked it in. She turned 18, thought about college for maybe 5 minutes, and then started hopping freight trains. I tried to talk to her about that, and she just said, "Dad, come on, it's a family tradition." So just be warned, if you put it out there, it's have to come back to you a little bit. But like I said, I've been living in Boston, Massachusetts, well, actually across the river, the People's Republic of Cambridge, for a while. But I'm not a Yankee. That's because I never will be, because I am from out west. I am from so far out west that it was Reagan country before Reagan was cool. I am from a place that is so conservative they would not let Patrick Buchanan anywhere near their temple. I am from a place where the predominant religion is so patriarchal that not only did they erect an incredibly tall office building, they included the balls. It's true. You go downtown, church office tower flanked by 2 3-story libraries, and etched into the granite face of each library a hemisphere of the globe, leaving nothing to a Freudian imagination. So you know where I'm from. That's right, I'm from the land of milk and honey. I'm from behind the Zion curtain, from the great state of Utah. And it was growing up in Salt Lake, sharing the avenues with Ted Bundy, that woman-raping killer who didn't have the guts Gary Gilmore did. Let's do it, boys. The saints call it blood atonement. Growing up in Salt Lake, I'd never been so close to God. He visits a prophet regularly, right downtown, says, "It's cool, Spence, blacks can be priests too. This is no longer politic to keep them down. The God of the saints is a just God." Growing up in Salt Lake, my girlfriends are divorcees and strippers. What does Jessica know of Margaret? The goddess was all around me as I walked among the excommunicated on psychedelic drugs and rode with Dutch driving wheelchair tossed in the back seat. Another shot of booze in Taco Time drive-through 8 South and State. Dutch rams a shiny Camaro for cutting in line. Then brandishing a Bowie knife yells about the rights of the disabled as a young Camaro jockey stands in anger and awe. Screw the tacos. Snow is falling. Margaret is shaking, I'm shaking too, and the night, it is still young in our clean town. But the best part of living in that clean town is that there are lots of ways to get out of town. And that is what we would do every chance we'd get. My buddies and I would hop in our car, drive south for about 4 hours, south from Salt Lake City. We'd find ourselves out on a place called the Kaparowitz Plateau. And that's high desert country there. There, the wind dances. At night, it sings to expansive empty valleys embracing medicine dreams. In these lands, time is dwarfed by space. The memories of the old ones are not erased. The blue flute man jams with coyote trickster's hand, a refrain carried on the sifting sands. The breaking of a twig, it echoes for miles through the red rock canyon mazes, past the places the mule deer grazes. Juniper, sage on sparse terrain, the touch of humanity this earth abstains. Homeland to erase that left only footprints for time to chase. Wind dance dusting sandstone dunes, singing at night to sacred mirror moon. Shadows at midnight, dust devils at dawn. Wind dancing with time, wind dancing on and on and on across the vastness of the Kaparowitz Plateau. When you get there, you have got to stop the car, get out, put on a backpack, walk all afternoon, make a camp, look around. You can see for 100 miles in every single direction and not see a road, a car, a billboard, or any other sign of man. And if you look to the sky, it opens wider still. And if you breathe deep, if you listen close, you can hear the crow. I hang above, suspended on rising thermals, vastness surrounds me. From up here, all is silence and wind whispers. I soar free, one eye on the landscape, always in search of a meal. Food is ever a priority, and despite your desecrations, your roadkills keep me fed. My other eye sees in nature the divine intended, in the shapes of the clouds on the winds, each shifting, billowing form, a microcosm of the seasons, echoing the ebb and flow of the rivers before the dams. Strong and easy I fly, the substance of the air yielding as I chart distances your roads can rarely match. So explore the Kaparawitz Plateau. That desert, it's one gigantic playground. Take your shoes off, walk barefoot. Watch out for the cactus and the thorn bush. But what you're doing, you are stepping on sandstone. You can feel the pores of the earth massage the soles of your feet. And if you put your ear to the ground, if you listen close, you can hear the snake. I live in the cracks, the spaces in between. And since the dawn of time, I have warmed my blood, sharing the heat the stones retained. Cooled myself in moist crevices created when the earth settles and your abodes do not conform. Down here, the world is silent and sensuous. I taste the changes in the air. The earth tells me what's afoot. I bathe in vibrations and sense, eat only what I kill. I embrace the dark and light. Nurture my venom with the secrets of both. Strike like lightning, then withdraw. I haunt your myths and dreams. My individualism awes you. I am to blame for seducing you to knowledge. I wrap your healer's staff. My juices cure and kill. But I am a simple being, seeking to master nothing but my own survival. I find those secret folds in the womb of the planet, match my heartbeat to the pounding tides and hammering pile drivers, tune myself to the earth's enduring. And when it is time for me to grow, I leave myself behind. Watch me while I shed my skin and stay the night out there in that high desert. When the moon is full, everything glows, it's radiant. You can play tag with your own shadows. And when the moon is new, the stars take over the sky. Hundreds of stars, thousands of stars, hundreds of thousands of stars spread across the vast ebony sky. And if you breathe deep, if you listen close, you can hear the universe whisper its secrets through the stars. Hear it translate on the breezes and the tides, speaking clearly in the silent voice of still things being still, of live things living, of wild things being free. The universe whispers through the stars its secrets. You are, is answered by the breeze. I am, you are, I am. The universe whispers its secrets through the stars to the dancing wind out on the Kaparawitz Plateau. So I'll do one more real meaningful poem. I had the opportunity a while ago to spend some time being bi-coastal. I was commuting from Boston to Richmond, California, in the Bay Area, where my wife was doing a community building oral history project. I have to tell folks back home, no, Richmond's in California. It's a lot like Oakland, but without any of the glamour. And that's really about as accurate a description of the place as you can get. It's a really rough town, and among other distinctions, it has one of the highest homicide rates in the state of California. And while we were out there, there was a homicide that was shocking by their standards. It happened at a funeral. And it was enough to send some of the formerly incarcerated OGs over the edge. And decided they had to do something about it. We weren't quite sure what that was going to be, but it had to be something. And what they came to was making a gesture. A few of them took some tents and went down to a parking lot across from where the Troubles went down and just pitched their tent and started hanging out all night, talking to the well-armed young men in the neighborhood, saying, hey, we love you. What is it going to take for you to keep your weapon in your pocket? Just that. We love you. What's it going to take for you to keep your weapon in your pocket? So they spent a couple nights out there, weren't sure where it was going, but across town another little camp of tents popped up, and then another, and pretty soon there were 4 little pods of tents, all camped out, all talking to the well-armed young men with that same message. We love you. What is it going to take for you to keep your weapon in your pocket? And it turned into a grassroots movement called the Tent City Peace Movement, and they stayed out there for 40 days. And during those 40 days, the homicide rate in Richmond, California went to 0. And it was really remarkable. And we were very honored to be asked to help facilitate keeping that process going. So all of that experience kind of added the color to this last poem I'll do for you. Look deep into your heart. Look deep within into your soul. Search the very bedrock of your being. Ask yourself but one question. Peer into your dark quarters. Examine those things about which you do not want to know. Grapple with your demons and your doubts as you find that deep and holy place within from where all the warmth of your being emanates. Immerse yourself in the rhythms of breath. Allow them to inform your senses and know, yes, the question is answered. Know again that this profound knowing guides your step as you stand in the whirring, buzzing morass of contradiction and complexity that we all live each moment of our lives in. Trust what you do not have words for as you face your fears one by one, calling them into the light, meeting them, feet apart, palms open. Stand as they glare at you and throw their punch. Allow the blow to remind you that they too are real. Then, not making a fist, forgive your fears. Leave them free to find their own path on the planet. It is this way with peace, both inner and outer. You retain your fragile control in a world that is out of your control. You face your foe with open arms. When need be, absorb the blow and wish a place in heaven to wait patiently for your adversary as they enjoy a long and fruitful life. Refuse to name an enemy. Let your grudges walk away with your fears. It is this way with peace. It can only be done completely.
Tim Mason. Hey, welcome to the spoken word stream, people who are just arriving. We have spoken word, poetry, fusionness going on for you in this session, and it's going to continue to be brilliant. It really takes something at a folk music conference like this, when you've got so much wonderful music going on. It really takes a lot of talent to just stand up there and speak and hold an audience. So well done to Tim. The sound man's job is just about to get more complicated. We have Andreas the Stack, and they will tell you what their latest band name is, coming up soon. I'm going to kind of just do a poem while they set themselves up and fiddle around there. I'm Helen Gregory, and I'm just hosting this session. This is a poem that